Hello guys, good morning. Alright, so in this video I want to show us how to fix your color. Now I have drafted the color file with my measurements. Don't forget that I have a video on how to draft this. Now the essence of this video is to show you where to thread and where not to thread. Now if you notice, I am not threading on top of the color gum. I'm threading beside the color gum. They must make sure you thread beside and not on top. Now the reason for this is because when you thread on top, the color gum tends to be too hard for you to turn the color. So after threading, all I'm doing now is to trim out the excesses on the side and also at the up area of the collar. Then after the trimming, I will notch the edge. Now this notching is to make it easy for me to as well turn out the edge. Then after the notching, I will now tuck it out from this direction. Then use my scissors and push the edge. Carefully do this. Don't allow the scissors to pierce the edge of the material. Then tuck the both edges out. Then after this, you are going to top stitch all right round. I will show you as well how to top stitch. Please make sure you watch the video to the end for you to be able to see how these things are done, because color fixing seems to be simple, but it is one of the most tasking aspects of shirt making for some of us who are yet to understand or learn how to fix a nice and appropriate color. So now, if you notice, I am threading quarter-inch off from the edge of the collar. Then invariably you can use your machine foot as a gauge in order to thread nicely. So you have to thread all through to that point. Then make sure your threading is straight enough. Make sure you're also using a corresponding or a matching color to the fabric you are making. So thread all through that way, up the up area, the two sides, and then you now stitch the tip of the down area. Now the reason is to make this to be a one piece when you are sewing, right? So stitch the tip, then you can now cut off the excesses. Now observe how I am cutting out the excess of this. Cut exactly at the edge where the collar gum ended, right? Now I intentionally had to cut a bit wider fabric for me to have space to thread and trim as well. So after this, now fold into two this way. Make sure it's properly folded, then notch the midpoint. Now the notching is going to help you tell you the center of the collar when you are fixing the collar base. Now here as well, I have my collar base. I also gummed with collar gum underneath. Then I folded half an inch at one edge. Now after that, you thread 3/4 inch off. Now this threading is also called, the threading is also called a decorative threading. Then you trim off the excesses inside. Then make sure you do this carefully and gently, right? Don't be in a haste to do this. Carefully do all of this. Then once you have trimmed out to this very point, then you're also going to fold into two to get the midpoint, right? So you have to carefully fold this collar into two to get the midpoint. Then once you are done getting the midpoint, you are going to lap the collar area with the collar 4 area. The collar base where you gummed will rest on top of the collar 4 collar gummed area, right? That's gummed area to gummed area. Then you put a fabric of the collar base underneath. I just had to cut a bit wider fabric for me to have enough room to do my threadings without having to stress myself to check if it's catching or not. Then I'm threading exactly at the end where the collar base collar gum ended, right? So just carefully watch this video. You will see how you can fix your collar without much stress, without any hassle, right? So carefully do all of this and then start from the center point where you notched to fix, to thread, right? Then also start from the other end as well to end the threading on the other side as well. So this is just going to be One of the simplest ways you can do this, make sure your threading is at the end where the collar gun ended, right? Don't be in a haste to do this. Carefully watch the video and master how I am threading before you can try yours on your fabric, right? So gently do this, and then after which you must have done this now. So now the next thing to do is to turn it out. But before then, I am going to trim the excesses, notch some areas so that it will relax properly. Then cut your thread as well, which is very, very important. So you just have to carefully do all of this. Cut your threads both front and back. Then after which, you are going to trim the sides, but make sure you give some little gap for you not to over trim, right? So just trim all of this to this very point, but make sure you give some little gap for you to use in your fixing. Then tuck the collar base out in this form, tuck it out. Then after which we are going to the iron table to iron out this collar so that it can relax properly and nicely. So look at the collar we have achieved. So we are going to iron now and then show you how to do the other necessary preparations. So let's go to the table. So now you see how neatly stitched it is, right? So let's go to the table to iron. Then on the table here, we now have to iron from the back. Please note, we must iron from the back, right? Now, so for you to remove any foldings and the joining points if possible. So carefully do this. Iron from the back, then iron thoroughly from the back. Make sure all the edges are nicely ironed out. Then I also show you another important area you need to iron. Then you also iron from the front just lightly in order to relax every other process as well. Then here, see how I'm folding this tip, right? Please make sure you fold this tip in this form. This tip folding will help you to fix your collar smoothly at both edges. Now this folding is going to help relax every other make you fix it properly, then trim a bit. You're going to leave 3/4 inch or half an inch depending on how many inch or how many extent you want to sew. But I'm leaving 3/4 inch or that or 1/4 inch depending on how you want to sew. So this is just your own way of attaching. Then after which you fold the collar into two as well and notch. Then you now bring the shirts. You also fold it into two equal parts. Also notch the back center or the middle of the back to notch properly as shown. Make sure that the shirt is properly folded and then notch here this way. Then once you notch, use very small notching, right? Don't notch too much. Then also fold the collar again and also notch at the back centers as well. Then after this, now you now match from the back. The collar will be fixed from the back, from the center notch point to the front buttonhole allowance and the button allowances as well. So carefully watch this video and make sure you follow these steps and also understand how these things are being done, right? So this is how I am fixing my collar, and I believe you are learning a lot from this. So if you're learning a lot from this, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment, tell me where you're watching from so that I will know my fans. Tell me how impactful this video might have been to you. Please watch the video to the end, comment, share, invite your friends to subscribe to my channel so that you will get to learn when I make new videos on how to stitch, on how to sew, right? Let us all grow together. So don't forget to also turn on the post notification bell for you to be notified whenever I make or create new content like this. So now make sure that you carefully lap or align the edges. The edges must correspond, right? So after you must have fixed the first part of the collar from the center point, you can now start from the end of the button allowance to start fixing this. Please make sure that you start from this point and both panels must correspond. Both your collar base and your button allowance edge must tally. So carefully do this. Then you can now adjust the shirt accordingly and stitch from that direction. Just this is how you do your collar, and make sure you are not in a haste while doing this. Carefully watch the video. do it. The more you do it, the more you understand, or the more it gets clearer to you. So try to make sure that there's no foldings or rumples at the end, at the middle of the shirt. As long as your measurement is correct, there will be no rumples or whatsoever. So just make sure you align properly this way. So after this now, the next to do as well is to top stitch or to lock the collar. Then make sure you fold all the allowances inside and then start from the inside this way to lock your collar base, right? Make sure that your locking is falling on the exact point where you attached the first collar, right? Make sure that the folding is covering the first thread you have there. Make sure it's properly tucked in and then it covers nicely. Thread all through to this point. Carefully do this. Don't be in a haste, right? Carefully do this. Thread all through to this point. Make sure it's lapping as seen, as shown. Please don't be in a haste. Please don't be in a haste. Just make sure it's coming out in this form. And then after which you lap it properly as well. Thread all through to this point. Thread all through to this point. Thread all through to this point. Carefully do this. Now make sure that the collar ending is also relaxed. There should be no squeezes or rumples, right? Now make sure that there is no one that you overstretched or you understretched. Then make sure that there's no spillover on the end. This is how it is. Then after this now, cut your threads as well, and then you're going to top stitch on the collar point, the joining points, right? So I'm trying to put my reel, then start from here to thread the curvy area of the collar base, then curve it all through, then top stitch on top. At that point, it joined the collar fall, right? Top stitch on top. Make sure your stitching is straight enough, then thread all through that way, right? Carefully do this, it's not hard. So now, after this now, the next to do as well is to iron out the collar. Then I'll also show you how to iron. Some person doesn't know how to iron. If you want to iron your collar, please make sure that the collar fall is being half-inch higher. It's being folded half-inch higher, right? Don't fold from the next point it ended, or you can fold a little bit higher. It helps to relax the collar as well after making the outfit. So when you have gotten to this stage, now the next thing to do now is to iron out the collar fall from the back and then make sure it's properly ironed. You can use your steam iron or dry cell iron, whichever one you have, then iron. Now take a close look at this folding, right? I did not fold it equally from where it joined. I pushed a little bit of the collar fall to go a bit higher this way.